What a lot of people think of as awakening is actually just the pre-steps to awakening before the awakening has even happened.
Many people think seeking is the be-all and end-all, but it's just the pre-step to awakening.
Right on the threshold, on the hero's journey, this is where you've gone through all these things and now you're about to go beyond to the new world.
And so you have to be able to commit, right? That's the first step, like totally commit to one path.
Oh, I have a spiritual life because I have a candle and I've got my little angel cards. But this is all peripheral.
Let's say 400 years ago, there was absolute blind faith in religion. Whatever religion it was you were doing, you just blindly followed, and everyone had blind faith in religion.
Om Shanti, many blessings, and welcome to this special episode on the stages of spiritual growth or awakening. What are the stages we go through in our journey from the beginning all the way through to the highest level of consciousness, the highest state of being as a spiritual being on the planet? Many people have talked about this in different ways, and there's a lot of misunderstanding and wrong information about this, about what awakening actually is and what these stages really are. So we're going to be going through this in a lot of detail so you can tune into what stage you are at the moment and where you'd like to be. So welcome. Hello, Shireen. Welcome.
Hello, Michael.
This is such a deep topic, isn't it?
It is a deep topic. And it's like you were saying, no? There's a lot of misunderstanding.
There really is. And actually one of the funny things about this episode today is that what a lot of people think of as awakening is actually just the pre-steps to awakening before the awakening has even happened. And so as we get into this, for those listening, just tune into where you're at, what stages you've gone through, and also be aware that we can go up and down on these different stages like a ladder. It's not like you're at one stage and that's it. So you can drop down to lower levels, you can jump up to higher levels. So it even within a day, we might be oscillating between different levels potentially.
Yeah. So what are the pre-steps, Michael?
So let's talk about the pre-steps first, like what happens before spiritual awakening, right? So the very first step is what we call distraction, where somebody is distracted, they're just spending their time avoiding themselves, avoiding their spiritual journey, which might mean getting caught up in various things, getting caught up in entertainment and various distractions. There's, as I'm sure you're aware, there's nowadays the whole modern society. Yeah, it's the whole world is distraction basically. So if someone's not being aware of themselves, they're just running around avoiding themselves. The next stage after distraction is pain and discomfort. This is where we start to feel something is off and our distractions are no longer working for us, right? So in my case, I was distracting myself in entertainment and parties and alcohol and smoking and drugs and various things, and it stopped working. And I was like, I can't. So that's a really shocking stage to be in, where the things that you were doing to try and feel good don't work anymore. And that leads to the next stage, which is where we are open to newness. So we say, all right, this isn't working anymore. What else can I do, right? So there's this kind of opening. And this is where some people might think that is a spiritual awakening. It's kind of like a mini awakening where you think, okay, what else is there? The next stage after the opening is the search, where we start actually actively looking for stuff. We might read a book on meditation, we might read a book on spiritual, we might go on YouTube and be interested in spiritual things. And so this is where the search begins.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because many people think seeking is the be-all and end-all, but it's just the pre-step to awakening. It's not even a step in awakening, it's a pre-step to awakening.
That's right. So seeking might be like you watch about some guru and you might go on some talk somewhere in some place and you kind of, and then you might read this And so that can go on for a long time. You haven't found what you're looking for, but you're looking for something. And we've all done some version of that. Beyond seeking is where, and this is what a lot of people think is spiritual awakening or having a spiritual life, is what we call the spiritual buffet, or the another way of saying it is the halfway house of the spiritual ego. I actually wrote about this in one of my books, the halfway house of the spiritual ego. Spiritual consumerism, where we think, all right, let me buy the special clothes and get the special mala beads and the special crystal and the special candle, right? And then the special picture. And so it's all these sort of things.
And especially mortality strips.
Immortality strips or patches, and then some. So that's like, so we've been seeking, and now we're getting into all this stuff, right? And I have a spiritual life because I have a candle and I've got my little like angel cards, but this is all like peripheral, superficial things.
Another part of the buffet, Michael, is where we keep sampling from different faith traditions. A little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that.
Yeah, we're just jumping about. I like a bit of this, I like a bit of that. And
I like a bit of New Age, I like a bit of 99
dimensions. Go to church, go to some event here and some event here, and just sort of like, try the Kabbalah, try this sort of like a little bit whirling dervishes, a little bit of Rumi poetry. And that would normally be considered awakening by a lot of people, but really this is just getting on towards something beyond that. And then finally, the final pre-step is where you say you actually find a path that you resonate with, and you say, oh my God, like maybe this is the thing that I need to take on. And so you sampled all these things, and then you find something, and you go, you know what, this resonates with me. And that is the final pre-step of awakening. Because if you just find the path and don't do anything about it, then awakening hasn't really started. That's kind of like just right on the threshold, on the hero's journey. This is where you've gone through all these things, and now you're about to go beyond into the new world, into the special world. That's what Joseph Campbell calls the special world, where you go from the ordinary world where you've been sampling all these things, trying stuff out, to going into a real, genuine, deep experience. So once that's all happened, right, what is the first real step of spiritual awakening, Shireen?
I think the first step would be a sequence to the last step you were talking about. That you stop sampling and you pick one path. You just pick one path. You don't pick a little of Kabbalah, a little of, Sufism, little of this, and then say, yeah, everything is good. But everything is good. I'm not saying everything is not good. But the first understanding of awakening is that you decide that one path needs to work, right? It's just like, let's say, you like to play football. Right? If you want to be good at football, you really need to pick football. You can't say one day I'll go play football, one day I'll go play basketball, one day I'll go play golf. You can't do that because then you're not going to be good at football. And so you have to be able to commit, right? That's the first step, like totally commit to one path. This is so hard for people because everyone is so commitment phobic. And they love the whole idea of, I see this a lot, right? Because I shop at Whole Foods a lot. And they come in and, I'm like, they're so up on, the new trends and new things. And I'm saying that about, like, I shop at Whole Foods too. But, let me go buy free-range chicken or free-range beef or whatever, right? And that just defeats the purpose of why you would need to be conscious. Let's say people are really conscious of the environment, and then they decide to do all of these things. So it just negates the purpose. It's the same way. I'm not saying we're not getting into that yet, but the whole point of picking one path, right, just picking one path, is that you are saying, I'm going to give this my everything. If you spread yourself too thin, right, awakening doesn't happen. You have to pick one path and say, this path is it that's going to do it.
That's right. What's that got to do with free range chicken?
Okay. All right. I was thinking, I was going to say the word, but I didn't. Like, there's a certain kind of vanity, right? There's a certain kind of vanity in people. They say, oh, I shop at Whole Foods. I only eat free range chicken, like the free range chicken don't have feelings or whatever, right? And so there is a certain kind of vanity around, oh, I like to do a little bit of Sufism. I like to do a little bit of New Age stuff. I like to keep my options open. There's a lot of ego going on with that. There's a certain vanity going on with that, very similar vanity. And that vanity doesn't allow us to awaken.
Right. It's because that's the halfway house of the spiritual ego. It's where we're so what's the word? We have such a big ego about all these different things, but we really are not moving forward. We're just collecting.
Yes.
We're collecting ideas. And by the way, we're not judging this as a bad thing. It's just a phase. Like there's different
Right.
stages.
If you want
right?
awakening, this is not it, right?
Yeah.
You want awakening, you don't sample around. Or if you've sampled around, pick one of all of the samples, right?
Yeah.
I heard recently that, I'm sure it's an old thing, but I just heard, like, just goes to show how, where I live and what I do with my life, that there's something called serial dating. Like like this person was describing to me, and I was thinking, oh my God, that seems so stressful, right? Like, I thought this was supposed to be enjoyable. How can it be so stressful? Like, they'll sit, like, there'll be people in front and people, like, two sides, opposite sides, and then they'll just 1 or 5 minutes, they'll just keep switching.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, they go like around
Switching
the
people.
whole thing. Yeah.
And so I feel we are doing the same thing. If you really want to commit, right? Let's say you want to commit to a relationship. You don't just keep serial dating, right? You have to commit to a relationship.
Yeah.
It's the same way with spiritual awakening. If you want to commit to spiritual awakening, the first step is to commit to one spiritual path. We are not saying which path. I'm not saying, oh, you have to do this particular path and do this, but pick one path and commit to it.
Right, and have some discernment on what it is and make sure that it's resonant with you, because
Right.
Everyone has their own true path, right? And it's in your dharma, like where do you really fit in things? And so if you've sampled enough stuff, we're not saying there's anything wrong with sampling stuff, because how are you going to know what the path is if you haven't tried stuff out? It's not like you're necessarily going to find it on the first try. So it's okay to try different things out, just like we need to try different diets or different personal trainers or different whatever, and then you find the right thing, right? But then sooner or later you have to say, okay, I have done enough of that, and now I'm choosing this path, and I'm going to choose the path, and I'm going to commit to actually practicing the things that the path recommends, So it's not just choosing it's one thing, and then the next thing is saying, all right, I'm committing to doing it properly to the best of my ability,
Right.
not half-heartedly. So if the path says start changing your lifestyle and start doing the various things, then do those things. Otherwise, you're not going to get the benefit from it. Otherwise, we're still just picking and choosing. I'll try a little bit of this path, but then I'm going to also add a bit of this other path, and just sort of like
Right. I see a lot of those people in the center, and I always feel, oh, the cup is so full. How is anything else going to fit in that cup? Because the cup is so full. Like, you can't just arrive at a path with your cup so full that you don't know how to take more. Because the first step of spiritual awakening is you have to be open to learning and committing and doing all of that. If your cup is so full, how are you going to take more?
Exactly, and the thing is with committing to a path, like I'll be honest, right? Like I read a lot of books, okay, so it's not like I never study anything else except one thing. Maybe I should, I don't know, but to be perfectly honest, what I've learned Like here's a book, right? I'm reading this book here. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want anyone. But like I've got a book, and it's not like I'm like doing a spiritual buffet or anything. This is not a spiritual book. It's a marketing book. But I can read this book because I have a spiritual path, and I can think, how does this book relate to my spiritual path, and how can I use things here how can I apply what I already know and use this to support something I'm already doing. There's a big difference between learning stuff from various places and then applying it to what you're doing, than trying to take bits and pieces and create your own religion in a way, Do you see the difference? So so you pick a path, and you commit to the practices and the principles of that path, right? So that's the first step. Right? What's the next step? The next step is doing daily practice, where you actually say, okay, I am going to practice my spiritual practice every day consistently for a decent amount of time, for a significant amount of time. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to really take this on, and I'm going to sit through the monkey mind, and I'm going to sit through the oh my god, this is hard phase, and I'm going to do it every day no matter what, and I'm going to do it consistently every day, right? That's a big difference, isn't it?
The couple of things I want to mention here is that, remember, out of 7 stages of a spiritual awakening, right, this is just the second stage. So if you're finding the second stage hard, it's not hard. Nothing is hard. As a human soul, we can train ourselves to do anything. So first you have to take this word hard out of your dictionary and come at it with an open mind, right? Open mind and understanding that you will receive help and everything will be fine. So don't think anything is hard. But in the second stage, where you are doing a daily practice, I feel if you've picked a path, right? If you've picked a path, like, oh, it's okay to go to the temple or to the church once a week, right? That's not going to get you awakening. So pick a path that requires something every day, because that's what's going to get you awakening. If you want awakening, then you have to do something every day towards it, right? That's the whole point of the daily practice. You have to commit to yourself to something every day, to the path. Like, you're not going to say, oh, yesterday I had a full meal, so today I don't need to eat a meal. You need a meal every few hours you need a meal, because the body needs that. In the same way, the soul also needs a lot of food, and it needs daily maintenance and daily food. And so to remember that, right? And the other aspect of daily practice is the moral licensing that people do, or self-licensing, right? Oh, I practice this for 4 days in a row. Maybe the 5th day I can just sleep in. The 5th day becomes 6th day I sleep in. The 6th day becomes 7th day I sleep in. Before you know it, they're 2 months gone, and you just practiced for 4 days. The first 4 days, and the rest of the time you just slept in. So don't give in to moral licensing, where this ability, moral licensing is a social psychology term, where we tend to give ourselves license to do something bad if we do something good for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. So let's say in the spiritual path it says meditate for half an hour every morning. I meditate for half an hour every morning for 4 days. On the 5th day, so I did it for 4 days. I don't need to do it today. Yeah. And so it's very important to understand the self, and to understand that that's going to happen, and that you're not going to give up. You're going to keep to it.
And why is this an important step? Because if you don't do something consistently long enough, it doesn't work. That's the reason. Just same with exercise, same with sports, same with music, same with anything. And it's very easy to get off track. If we say, I'm just gonna just forget about it. I've seen this with my students many times. They're doing great, and then moral license. I'm feeling fine. I'm not going to bother. And then I hear from them 6 months later. I don't know what happened to me. Like, I haven't been doing any of these practices for 6 months. And it's just like, what happened? Because it only takes one day. I mean, here's the thing. Let's say you do miss a day for some reason, don't be like, oh, there's no point, I'm just going to give up now, I'm just going to... No, that's an extreme. You say, okay, let me just get back on the train tomorrow, right? Or, but
No, not
not to think...
tomorrow, Michael. Now.
Yeah, well, let's say
Do
it depends
something
on the
now.
time of it. Yeah, what you can you do? A little bit of practice now, but you get back into it, right? If we don't have that attitude of getting back in the game right away, then it might be 6 months or a year or 2 years, or 10 years in some cases, right? So step number 1 is pick a path and be serious about it, and start doing the principles. And the second step is to do something every day. That's what happened to me, is I realized I needed to practice this path. Then I started getting up early morning every day and going to learn spiritual things every day. And I'd actually go in the evening as well for more meditation. So I had like 3 practices I did every day. Early morning meditation, early morning meditation in a group, learning something, and then evening meditation. And because I did that consistently for months and months and months, I got in the game, and my whole life changed. But if I hadn't done this consistently, I don't know, I wouldn't have made any progress, right? So that's the second stage. Are you doing a daily practice that is supporting your well-being on a consistent basis? Because that makes such a huge difference to your whole life. Yay. So what's the third stage?
Understanding Maya. So Maya is a Sanskrit word, and it means illusion. And it doesn't mean physical illusion. It doesn't mean, there is this magician here and he's picking out rabbits out of his hat and we don't know where the rabbits are coming out, right? That seems to be an illusion. It's not that kind of illusion. It is spiritual illusion that we put ourselves in. So the one thing we need to understand about awakening is that the enemies are within. For any of the steps of awakening, that if you start awakening to spiritual things, you realize that you can do yourself significantly more damage than anyone else in the world can do you. So the enemy is true. Within. And the enemy is also, but you have to separate yourself from the enemy. You are a pure, beautiful soul, and the enemy is external to you. It's like you're a beautiful diamond, and the enemy is the mud around the diamond. But we have taken ownership of the mud, right? Let's say I'm a pure, beautiful, blissful, peaceful soul, right? That's who I am. But then I start thinking, oh, this ego is me, this anger is me, yeah, I get angry all the time, that's who I am, right? What I'm doing is I'm taking ownership of the mud, because that is not me, that's not the pure me, that's not the original me. That is something external that has been coming on much later, added on much later. And so we need to understand that Maya, that mud. How is that mud destroying my life? What is Maya? What is the illusion? Like the illusion here is the vices, like lust and anger and greed and ego and laziness and attachment and all of these things, right? They create an illusion in the soul. So I'll give you an example of illusion with, let's say, laziness. And so let's say you pick a spiritual path, and the spiritual path says it's good to get up at 4 in the morning. Right? And instead of getting up at 4 in the morning, because of laziness, you think, oh, but this path is not really a good path. It's really not for me, because my body needs this much amount of sleep and I need to sleep this much. And so I'm not going to get up at 4. And so this path is not for me. So what's happening is you're giving up on the path even before you started it because of your laziness, which is the illusion that laziness creates is deceiving you. And so you need to know thy enemy, right? You know thyself and then know thy enemy. Know thy enemy is very important. So you need to know Maya. You need to understand, how is Maya coming? How is Maya taking me away from my path of spiritual awakening? How is it doing this? What story am I telling myself inside? What excuses am I giving myself? Why am I giving those excuses? What are the vices behind the excuses? Because you have to take personal responsibility. One of the things that always was interesting for me about the devil in Christianity was that they would depict this devil as this little guy with a pitchfork and a tail and two red horns, right? And it's always something external. It's always something external. And so, over the years, even in the United States, right, who our enemies are, have always been something external. Like as a country, right? Okay, first it's this person, and no, then it's this person, and no, then it's this person, and no, now it's this country, and this, all of that, right? Because as a collective, as a society, we are always looking outside ourselves for who the enemy is. And so we need to understand who the enemy is and that the enemy is inside, and I can do myself significantly more damage than outside. And people might say, oh, but the United States does have external enemies. Yes, for most of us, I'm not denying that, they must have external enemies, but most of us don't need to worry about the security of the country. There are people who are worrying about it. That's not our business. Our business right now is to get on the path of spiritual awakening and understand how am I self-sabotaging this whole process of awakening. And that is understanding deeply the enemies within and understanding how that enemy is coming. That is the third step.
Yeah, it's very, very deep. We did a whole podcast on Know Thy Enemy, which you can listen to. The thing about the enemy is that when we realize it's internal, then we can actually make some progress, can't we? Because we can deal with things. Whereas when we think, oh, it's something else, then we're always basically not taking responsibility for ourselves, blaming it on somebody else, and we can't make progress as long as we are not recognizing the internal issues. And interesting thing about the enemy is that when it comes to these like foreign enemies, they're normally belief systems that are actually the problem for countries. If someone else has a different belief system, and if you kill a bunch of people and then that belief system continues, then it just reignites in turn inside other group of people who then have the same issue. And people don't seem to understand that there's an internal thing inside of people that's causing problems, not individual in people.
Yes, but you know what, Michael, what I've noticed is people are always looking outside. Right? They say, yeah, but this is happening in the world, this is happening in Gaza, and this is happening in Israel, and we need to support this, and we need to support that. But if you really think about it, very few of us actually can do much about what's happening in Gaza or Israel or
in
Iran
various
or
wherever the
wherever,
conflict is at the time,
wherever it is, very few of us can actually really do much about it.
On a practical scale,
Yes, on a practical scale. And also, I feel it's like another distraction, right? Another distraction to not look within. And so we need to understand that there is an inner enemy, a subtle enemy. It's called Maya. And that Maya is many times preventing us from getting on to this whole spiritual awakening. Having beautiful spiritual experiences, it's preventing me. And it does a perfect job of doing that, right? It's perfectly camouflages what you need to do, because somehow it's like a person in itself. Even though we're calling it a person, it's really not a person. It's the subtle vices that are within us. But we can personify it. Like we can personify it. Maya in Sanskrit is a she, and how she really tries to prevent you from having beautiful spiritual experiences. So what happens in, let's say, Israel and Gaza or Iran or wherever, you still will not be able to, even if there's complete peace there, you supported it and there's complete peace there, you will still not be able to have your spiritual experiences if you don't look at the enemy within.
One of Maya's great tricks is to seduce us, because that's why it's like a seductive force, where we think, oh, there's all these things I could be paying attention to, and what about this and what about that, and it's all pulling us away from ourselves. Blaming, either repulsing, either we're getting repulsed by something we don't like, or being attracted to something we do like. But in either case, we're not not experiencing these wonderful spiritual experiences. So this is a massive topic, understanding Maya, major topic.
But that is the third step of spiritual awakening, though, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
do
true.
understand Maya. You understand Maya, you understand how it's coming. You don't blame anyone. You take personal responsibility. You look within and see how you can progress.
So we're not basically, when we're saying I'm taking responsibility for my life and I'm taking responsibility for these illusions going on within me, and I understand what they are, and I'm doing something about it, and I'm overcoming that endless distraction right there. Because if we don't get that, by the way, like the thing with these stages is if we don't transcend that stage, then we just go backwards. Maya will actually stop us doing the practices. Maya will get us off the path, and before you know it, we're back in spiritual consumerism again. And then we can keep sliding all the way back into just complete distraction, potentially. So if we don't progress, we can actually go back and get lost. The next stage after that, stage number 4, is knowing our friends, right? Knowing God, our spiritual friend. So we know the enemy, but we also need to know who is helping us out, the divine force, the spiritual one who is called God, or the ocean of love, the ocean of bliss, the purifier.
I feel that God is not just, he's a friend. He's definitely a friend. But like in the hero's journey, he would be the mentor.
The guru, the true guru, the Sat Guru, the teacher, the mentor, right?
With God, right? I love what you were saying about the ocean of love and purifier. The conception of God has to be the highest conception of God.
Mm-hmm.
And many times I feel as a society, right, as a society, especially Western society, we have some kind of a PTSD around God. Because people will always say, oh, all of the wars in the world happen because of religion. And I'm thinking, that's not true. It's not true if you're from India. None of the wars in India happen because of religion. Maybe in Europe, all of the wars happen because of religion, but not in India, right? And so, or they will say all the evil in the world is because of religion. And so possibly, right, possibly because let's say Christianity or even Islam, a lot of things have happened in the past, like, you know, the Crusades and the Inquisition and all of these, lots of things have happened. And so people have clubbed, like, let's say 400 years ago, there was absolute blind faith in religion. Whatever religion it was you were doing, you just blindly followed, and everyone had blind faith in religion. And now people have just decided to have blind faith in science and then have blind doubt in religion. And so what has happened is they have equated religion and God, right? Now you have to separate it out, because every religion has made God anthropomorphic, right? They've humanized God. And so they've humanized God, and it is that particular problem. It's not that God himself or herself or they, right? God is that way, because for us, we have to understand one of the stages of awakening, spiritual awakening, is that you realize God is the highest, that the highest conception of God should prevail. It cannot be because I'm angry, then I make God angry. If I want people to fear me, then I will use God to put fear in you.
Right.
And so it can't be that way, that you separate out God from all of the past baggage, all of the things that you've heard, and then you realize that God, there has to be a very, very high conception of God. It can't just be a mundane thing like, oh, if God told me kill this person and I'll get 72 virgins or whatever, right? It can't be that, because God is like, let's say you yourself, you're a decent person. Would you do something like that even if you thought, oh, if I do this, I will get these things, that I'll kill this person? Would you do that?
No, most people wouldn't do it. No, that's an extreme thing
You
to
wouldn't do that. So that is mundane morality. That's mundane morality, right? As a moral person, as a decent person, you wouldn't do that. So God is definitely higher than mundane morality.
These wrong ideas about God have really put people off. Like, I mean, I talk to people all the time and they say, oh, I don't believe in God because I was traumatized by my upbringing, my church, my this and that, my whatever, right? Depending on their religion. And they just block it all completely, and then they believe in, science or sometimes, psychology and things like that. And the words anthropomorphization, right, is where we have an idea of what human beings are like, and then we say God is just like that. So if like the Old Testament idea of God, this is like a classic example, is that God is like a kind of vengeful, passive-aggressive person, basically. So if someone, let's imagine there's a human being, right? There's lots of people like this around who, if you do something that they don't like, then they'll punish you, or they'll give you a hard time, and they'll sort of like send you insults, and they'll try and wreck your life, right? There are people like that in the world, aren't there? You do something, like if you cut them off in traffic, they're going to, charge you down and try and take you out the car and beat you up, right? There are people like that. So people say, well, there are people like that, so God is probably the same as that, except God is
No, but they are
bigger.
no. But one thing we need to understand, Michael, is there are many people who are not like that. Right?
That's where the ideas came from. The ideas of God that people don't like is where they took someone who is like that, and they say, well, based on that, God is probably similar to them. Do you see what I mean? These are the ideas that are traumatizing to people. Someone
And
has
it's
taken
PTSD,
something,
right? It's also PTSD. Like, let's say if I was part of the Crusades or the whatever, right? And and if I believed in God, and someone who really I thought was equal to God, a human being who I thought represented God, if they misbehaved, imagine the PTSD around it. Right. So let's say I'm walking down the road and I get mugged by someone who's wearing a mask and everything, and I don't see them. And they come and mug me, and they really, mess me up, and then they say, I'm God, and leave. So next time I see a masked person, or next time I hear that someone is saying that they are God, I will run away from there, because there's the trauma around that. Mm-hmm. And so you have to separate that. You have to not believe that that possibly could have been God, that human beings misused God. For centuries and centuries, human beings have misused God to have their own power trips, and that God is the ocean of love, the ocean of compassion, the purifier, the bestower, the bestower of salvation, the remover of sorrow, all of these things. Like, there's so many attributes to God. Like, he really is the most benevolent, beautiful being there is. And so one of the stages of awakening would be that you understand that your conception of God is possibly false, and you need to really become pure so you can have a purer understanding of God.
Right. Yeah. To overcome some of these ideas from religion. Like, I just want to circle back to something you said before, because I imagine some people might have misunderstood you. Like, you said previously that religion is not the cause in India of wars, right? And a lot of people know about lots of wars. Like, you've seen wars happen in the name of religion or in the name of God. And in India, like, you've sent me a book yourself where a lot of wars happened. which could be considered based on religion, like the Muslims and the Hindus and like.
No, but they came, mostly it was for money, no? The British came and the British and the Muslims fought, and the Muslims fought, like the Muslim invaders came. That part, right? The
Yeah,
book I
and then
sent you from
partition
1600s
afterwards.
onwards.
Yeah.
1600s onwards, it was the partition, yes, but 1600s onwards, it was actually money. Like Nader Shah, all of those people came to India because they wanted money. They wanted to. They didn't want to come because they wanted to convert people.
Right, right. So a lot of it is people of different religions who just want to get money and take over and get power.
And take over, right? And I mean, we're totally going off tangent here. But if you think about it, right, Rome, before the Christians came, Rome had its own religion, and Italy had its own religion. You know, at that point, that area had its own religion. Greece had its own religion. But Christianity came and converted all of them, and now everyone are Christian. But in India, that's not the case. Like, all of these people came, but the majority religion is still Hindu religion, because the wars in India didn't happen because of religion. They happened because they came for the money or the gold or the jewels and the whatever.
So what we're trying to get at here is that we need to separate out people and religion and all the wars
And God.
with God, because they're
Yes,
not, they're
you
mixed,
have to
they're all
totally
mixed
separate.
together.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, wars, people, religion, it's totally separate from each other. Okay, so let's say God and religion, right? And there are no wars and people, it's still possibly not the right mix. Possibly not the right mix. Definitely God, people, wars, everything, that's definitely not the right mix. So first separate out God from everything else and try to connect with God as a supreme being, as a benevolent being, as, you know, there is this praise we sing of him, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, someone who's the truth, the benevolent one, the beautiful one, right? Connect with God that way, not as part of a religious thing. And that is one of the main stages of awakening.
Right, to separate the misunderstanding and the idea that God is out to get you and God is vengeful and God is connected to all these people-related things that have been traumatizing throughout history.
You know, one little thing I want to share is, you know, I don't exactly remember the Bible quote, but this, paraphrasing it, it is like God created us in his image. Mm-hmm. But I think the mistake we make is we create God in our image.
Right.
And then the other mistake we do is parents, right? When I say, you know, God is the divine mother, like let's experience God as the divine mother, and they say, no, I didn't have good experiences with my mother, so I don't want to deal with God as a mother, or I don't think God's the parent because my parents were whatever, right? So what we are doing is we expect parents, which are human beings, we expect them to behave like God. Right? Because we have all of these expectations of human beings, and we think, oh, why weren't they more divine and godlike? And they're supposed to, but it's Kali Yuga, so that's what happens. But then we expect God to behave like be like our parents. Like, there's the opposite stuff going on too. We are expecting God to be like our parents. You have to separate it out. Because if I don't experience God as the divine mother, God as this divine absolute parent who's going to take care of everything about me, then we are missing out.
Right. This is a big work, right? This stage is a big deal. You know, like even like another example is God doesn't like us if we do something wrong, right? Because we're all, you know, potentially capable of making mistakes in our life because we're flawed people and doing the best we can, right? So let's say I do something wrong today, or I should have eaten that and I ate that, or I did this and I should have had some waste thoughts. I can think with wrong understanding of God that because I did that, he doesn't like me anymore, and now I'm sort of like in the bad books and I'm not going to get any help anymore. You know, I screwed this thing up and now that's it. But there are people, human beings, who could forgive me and recognize that I'm doing the best I can. There are people like that, right? So why would God not be able to support me if I make a mistake. So there's so many of these weird beliefs around God. Like, God doesn't like me, God's out to get me. If I do this thing, I'm going to get some other thing. There's just, we could write a whole like series of books on all the wrong ideas about God quite easily, because there's so many of them. So separating out all this nonsense from who God really is a major part of the journey.
The next
So, yeah, so once you've done that, which is a lot of work, as you can probably tell.
But no, we should not say a lot of work, right?
No. Well,
Easy.
it's
Easy. Just
It's
put your mind to it and you can train yourself to do this. It's easy. You know
ease and
why I
grace.
feel it's easy? Is because that is our original nature. To have a beautiful divine relationship with God is our original nature. And anything that is original to us will come easy. Just stop resisting it. Stop putting labels on it. Stop doing all of that. It will come easy.
I think when we're genuinely willing to release false beliefs, then it's easy, isn't it? And you won't get to that stage till you're ready for it anyway. So the next one is
a little hard. Little hard.
No, this is
it's about harder. It's in our lessons, right? It's called not getting trapped in name and form. One of the things is in our exercises, in our lessons, we learn that we are spiritual beings. God is the supreme being. And the difference between the human soul and the supreme soul is that the human soul comes into the cycle of birth and death, and the supreme soul doesn't come into the cycle of birth and death. And so the supreme soul is always pure, always, beautiful, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, right? But because we come into the cycle of birth and death, we are so involved in the physical world. And so on these stages of spiritual awakening, there are many times we get trapped in people because for centuries and centuries and centuries, like thousands of years, we have been hanging out with human beings, and we've been taking solace and salvation and so many things from human beings. And I think even now we think, let's just do it that way, right? And so, but that's why it's the fifth step, because we are coming to the end of these amazing steps of spiritual awakening, and it's a very high destination, is where you don't get trapped in anyone, right? Whatever it is, whether you have to realize your spiritual life, your spiritual awakening is more important than the person who is teaching it, the person who is facilitating it. Right? They're all just instruments. We shouldn't get seduced by the people who are teaching it. Don't get trapped. It's like this, right? If there's a mail carrier, a postman, or a postwoman, so let's call them a mail carrier. Mail carrier comes to give me a letter. Instead of looking at the letter, am I getting involved in the mail carrier? I'm like, oh yeah, no, I hardly know him. I don't even know who the guy is who delivers our mail. And so, because all I'm interested is in the letter, right? In this way also, right? We should just be interested in the message, not in the messenger. And so if we get trapped in the name and the form of the messengers that we have, right? Whichever guru, whichever beautiful teacher, whatever it is, right? First you have to understand that whoever it is, that they should point towards God. Because if they're not pointing towards God, then it's not totally legit, right? Because I think without God, you can't go too far. And so we have to understand that without God, you can't go too far. And the second thing is that even if they are saying, pointing towards God, like, we don't get trapped in them. We don't get seduced by what they are doing and saying, and they're so lovely and they have so many qualities. Yes, everyone are beautiful, everyone has amazing qualities, but we always have to remember those qualities came from God. If God is giving everyone gifts, right? Beautiful qualities, divine qualities, God is giving everyone. And if I get trapped in people, then when will I get received from God? Because as soon as I get trapped here horizontally, then I'm not able to take from God.
That's right. There's a story about this from some scriptures. There's a man who's goes to see a king to get some help for something. So he's waiting for the king, and as he's waiting, he notices the king is actually praying to God for help. And he watches him praying, and he thinks, hang on a minute, if the king is getting from God, why don't I just bypass the king and go straight to God? And that's kind of basically what we're saying here, is that all these people, great as they are, they're getting from someone else, right? So we need to go to the source directly. Otherwise, we can waste a huge amount of time, and also those people are probably going to let us down at some point, possibly. And if they do, then we can say, "Oh my God, everything they said is terrible," and then we might get really upset and end up giving up, because human beings are capable of making mistakes, and if we equate that person with God and with the path, then when they don't do something that's up to standard, which is quite likely to happen, we can get very, very, very upset and throw everything out, and I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
So
the most important thing is what you were saying is about what would you call wasting time, because we are so used to this. We are so used to getting seduced by people. Oh, they're so lovely. Let me look at their specialties and let me put them on a pedestal. At some point, you'll learn that they have feet of clay, because everyone does. Everyone are effort makers. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they have feet of clay. I'm just saying that everyone has ups and downs and off moods and good moods and good qualities and not so good qualities. Everyone does. So one day you put them on a pedestal and soon they'll fall off, and then you go off your path, right? The most important thing is your spiritual journey. Don't give up that spiritual journey because of some person. And on the spiritual journey, don't go off tangents. Don't go off on, don't go take off an exit and say, oh, let me look at this person and see what they have to do. No one can give us what God can give us. So there is this phrase that we learn in our lessons, right? Don't get trapped in anyone's name and form. That is so deep and so important. And that is the fifth step.
Ease and grace, but it was also quite difficult as well. So, but let's just make it easy, so make it sound easy.
It could be easy. It could be easy.
I mean, knowing about it makes it easier.
Don't
knowing about it, because most people have
Right.
never even heard about this statement. Don't get trapped in name and form. This is a new thing, isn't it? A lot of fake spiritual teachers, which there are a lot around, actually consciously try and trap people in their name and form, and they encourage people being trapped in their name and form, and it's a huge problem. So if someone is trying to get you trapped in their name and form, it's a bad sign. Just for you to be aware of that. And a lot of people are like that. So they should be pointing you beyond them to a higher thing. They should point you back to yourself for a start, and then to receive support where they get it, not to themselves. If someone says, I'm the best thing ever, you need me, you need to have a little picture of me around your neck or something, then be careful. I'm the best ever, you can get my little locket, with a little necklace, and you should be praying to me every day, and here's my picture, right? And no. Run for the hills. So once you've overcome that, what's the next step?
Practice, intense practice, and more intense practice. Remember, this is the sixth step out of 7 steps of spiritual awakening.
Right.
So it's not, I would say this one is a little hard. But like anything else, right? Anything else, if you want it badly, you're going to do it.
Right.
But I'm telling you, just want it badly, because the experiences are worth it. Don't give up on it before you've experienced something.
That's right. So this is where we instead of dabbling about, we say, I'm going to really go for it. I'm going to really put in the effort. I'm going to give it more time. I'm going to make this more important in my list of priorities in my life than other things. Because what normally happens on a spiritual path is we say, yeah, I'll do my practice in the morning, I'll do my practice in the afternoon, maybe a little bit in the evening, but I've got all this other stuff to do, and that's more important. And on a deeper level in our heart, we're thinking, well, I haven't really got time for these things. But this step is where we say, no, my spiritual practice has to go at the very top of my list, top of my priorities. No matter what else I'm doing, this is actually the most important thing that I'm paying attention to. And everything else has to sort of fit into that in some way. So we're reprioritizing everything so that we can really go for it. Really go for it, to make a run for it,
Right.
a final run.
It's like the Olympics of spiritual awakening. So let's say you're going to be competing in the Olympics. You practice 6 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Above everything else, that's what you do. You practice 6 hours a day, or more sometimes, right? You're constantly, let's say you're doing gymnastics, you're constantly doing. And this is the Olympics of spiritual awakening. You come to the Olympic stage of spiritual awakening. And to be able to do that, you have to intensely practice, and more intensely practice to really get to the next stage.
The final stage, yeah. So this is the means through which we reach the final stage. If we don't really dedicate ourselves hardcore, then we're not going to get to the final stage, which is, what is the final stage?
Enlightenment.
Ah.
But enlightenment is a big, broad term, right?
Right.
There are many parts of enlightenment, but let's take one part of enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
And the phrase is comes in the Bhagavad Gita. It's in chapter 18. It's called Nashto Moha Smritilabdha. Nashto means destroy, and Moha is illusion. And Smriti is remembrance, and Labdha means something you gain. And so you have destroyed all illusion, and you have regained your awareness. You've regained your original self, actually. So on many levels, that particular phrase is really important because you're destroying illusion, you're destroying attachment and greed and ego and all of that. You're destroying all of those things. And you are coming back into that diamond that you are. So you're coming back to your original self. And it's I'm not saying I've experienced it too many times, but the few times I have experienced it where I'm just completely aware of myself as this beautiful being, it is so worth it, right? You could give up everything in the world to be experience that, because ultimately we all are seeking an experience. So every time we give up on any of the stages of awakening, right, is because I've feeling disheartened that I can't experience it. But you keep doing it, and you will come to this stage of experience where you are experiencing yourself as the most beautiful being there is, and you're experiencing God as this ocean of love, as this completely close to you being that is giving you everything, right? That experience, that is enlightenment. That is one aspect of enlightenment. And that is the 7th step. But you have to do the 6th step, right? You have to really commit, like if you want to go for the Olympic gold, like this is the Olympic gold of spiritual awakening, is Nashto Moha Smritilabdha. Then you have to do this practice, really commit hardcore to a practice. And then you will come to this level where there is this very high level of consciousness. Like you realize who you are, complete self-realization.
It's a feeling of having attained everything genuinely, a very, very deep feeling of complete fullness. Complete attainment, where you've woken up from the illusion of everything. And another word is the karmatit stage, where you're free of the bounds, the binds of karma, and all of the tentacles of karmic bondage and traps and getting pulled here and there. You're kind of stable and free. in a state of profound mastery. And that is our original stage. Isn't that
I
wonderful?
know, right? I don't want anyone to feel disheartened that, oh, this stage is really hard. Every soul, irrespective of who we are, where we are born, how much money we have, how much money we don't have, how much talent we have, how much talent we don't have, whatever it is, how much education we have, don't have, it doesn't matter which religion, which gender, which whatever, right? It doesn't matter. We all have the capacity to reach enlightenment. We are sharing this as this is the possibility. Not like, don't feel disheartened, oh, I can never get there. That is a possibility. And just keep that possibility open in your life. Don't give up on things, right? Don't feel, oh, things are hard. Don't feel disheartened. You know, if you are ready, right, the right circumstances, the right people will come into your life. And you will be able to get to this stage of enlightenment.
That's right. And let's be honest, it's unlikely you'd be watching or listening to something like this if that wasn't your destiny, you know, because how many people are clicking on videos or listening to podcasts about the stages of spiritual awakening and learning these things? This is part of your fortune, part of the destiny of life that's put you here to learn the things to get to that stage.
You know, nothing in life is difficult or need be difficult. We shouldn't label it that way, right? Any of these stages, right? Don't get disheartened. Let's say you can only connect with 2 of the stages and you can't connect with the rest of the 5 stages. Don't worry about it. Just focus on the 2 stages. Just keep these other things on the shelf. Don't think about it, but don't give up. Even if you connect with 1 stage, just hold on to that and just don't give up. Because giving up is what makes things difficult. Our mental blocks, right? The defeat happens in the mind. We chain ourselves. We keep bondages in the mind. And so just step away from that. Step away from those kinds of words and those kinds of ideas and concepts. Oh, things are difficult and I won't get there, all of that, right? Just keep yourself open. Keep your heart open. Just understand you're a spiritual being. Understand that there is a divine being who really is there to take care of us and give us salvation and give us happiness and give us, peace and all of these things. And it will happen. It will happen.
It's going to happen, and each stage has blessings. So you do these things, and then you get all this extra blessings and power and support that lets you go to the next stage. So it's not like they're just these things that you have to suffer through. You actually get a lot back by doing any of them, right? It's even like committing to the path. As soon as you commit to a path, you just liberate yourself from a lot of negative things, and you just focus, and that brings tremendous peace and clarity and ease and grace immediately, right? And then doing the practice, you start feeling better and better and better and getting all this strength. So each one leads to the next one, and slowly but surely, with ease and grace, you end up at the highest level of consciousness. Yes.
So blessing?
Blessings, hooray.
You can pick a number.
87.
87. Self-respect. That's a good one. You, the soul, this is for each one of you. I want you to feel that this blessing is coming from God to each one of you. You, the soul, are in touch with your innate purity. You focus on your inner beauty and treat yourself like a dear friend. You deeply respect yourself because you align your thinking and doing with your highest principles.
That's deeply related to everything we've just been talking about. So, thank you, Shireen, for your lovely presence, your wonderful wisdom. And, the key thing to remember for everyone listening to this is that success is guaranteed just by moving forward, and also that we can go up and down these levels. So just be aware, it's not like you're stuck in one place. They oscillate, they go up and down. And as long as we keep moving ahead and keep being aware of where we're at and keep moving along nicely, then we will end up at these higher and higher stages. And you can have jumps as well. Sometimes all of a sudden you're on different states, so that's a fun experience to enjoy. Yay, thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Lots of love, and Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.